Good morning and welcome back to Webinar Wednesdays with the Master Plan for Aging. I'm Kim McCoy-Wade, Director at the California Department of Aging, and we're thrilled to have you back for today's topic, part of our Livable Communities focus, parks and outdoor spaces. As you know, we are here every Wednesday, January through April 22nd, tackling a priority for aging and disability. You can always find the information at engageca.org. No need to register. The point of this is to have a dialogue, to have that live polling back and forth with our experts and with our public. And all materials are posted afterwards and even added to. So if you miss it, you can always circle back. Remember that hopefully you're starting to see now our very first polls, because we'd like to know who's here and what your perspective is. So we'll start practicing now with polls and report back in just a second. Before we jump into our normal business, we do want to acknowledge that we are in extraordinary times with the corona disease spreading across our state. We know that many of you are already, of course, receiving excellent information from our State Department of Public Health, which is the lead, and your own local Department of Public Health closer to the local situation. We wanted to lift up in particular that new guidance came out from our State Department of Public Health on Monday for people who are at higher risk for serious illness, which includes older adults and people with underlying health conditions. So just here is a reminder of this new guidance that many of you may have seen, of course, about hand washing and that contact, and also the staying at home, avoiding cruises, travel, large meetings. Again, exact guidance will vary depending on your local public health, but do want to make sure that everybody has access to the new state guidance for higher risk populations. And if you have questions or comments, you're welcome to contact us and we'll help connect you with public health resources. And I guess most of all, we are grateful that we are all still able to connect through webinar technology and have this conversation today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep the work moving. In that spirit, just a preview of the other webinars that are coming up. We are doing a great twofer here with Parks and Community Spaces this week, and next week, Civic and Social Engagement, which will continue the conversation about engagement in our communities in all kinds of ways, the built spaces, the social connections, intergenerational, and more. So great to have this 1-2 lineup. And then more to come on everything from geriatric medicine, serious illness, retirement security, and we'll be finishing off with leadership, key to the success of all of this work. I'm thrilled today that we're joined by such a tremendous lineup of folks, even all of whom who are part of coronavirus efforts with their own organizations. Thank you still for making time for us this morning. Thank you and your colleagues. We have Pam Plimpton, a star from San Diego County, Intergenerational Coordinator of Aging and Independence Services. We have Liz McGurk, Chief Deputy Director at California State Parks, a very valuable partner to us here. Jennifer Berdugo and Nina Weiler-Harwell, a tremendous combination from AARP California, and Nina, a member of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee member. So we will hear from them shortly, but I want to make sure we're grounded in our master plan. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, last June issued an executive order calling for a master plan, called for the Health and Human Services Agency in partnership with cabinet level agencies, including state parks, to work on a master plan together, as well as with a stakeholder advisory committee of 34 folks representing a cross section of California leadership. And of course, the master plan was done not just because more of us are aging, but aging is changing in so many ways. There's more diversity among our aging populations. More of us are living alone as we age for a variety of reasons. More of us are at risk of poverty. And there's increasing awareness about the stages of aging at 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, how different life can be. Just some quick facts to really underline, it's a data-driven, person-centered approach that we take. You can see in this chart from our colleague, Dr. Stephen Wallace at UCLA in 2010, the majority of elders are white, with only about 38.1% representing ethnically and racially diverse communities. But by 2060, yes, far away, but maybe not that far away, 2/3, the majority by far of our elder population will be from ethnic and racially diverse communities, more like the rest of California, particularly fast growth among the Latino population, as well as Asian elders. Another striking fact about living alone in California, more of us are living alone as we age for a variety of reasons, never having children, children living elsewhere, divorce, all kinds of reasons. And aging needs to reflect that new reality, both the opportunities and challenges that can present. And of course, this is a particular issue in the LGBT community. A higher percentage of LGBT elders are living alone than straight elders. Another increasing dynamic of aging is income, making sure we all have, our money doesn't run out as we age, that we have enough to live a healthy and dignified life. And there are both poverty and near poverty is how we talk about it in California, given our high cost of living from housing to health. And you can see that many of our elders are poor or near poor, particularly again in Latino, African American, and American Indian communities, although significant proportions in all elderly communities as well, which again has implications for healthy aging as well. And lastly, everyone's favorite, the pyramid population charts that show that California, these charts begin by showing how many people are 0 at the bottom of the Christmas tree, or the pyramid, if you will, and go all the way up to age 100. You see in 1989, it really was that pyramid shape with more young people and a bulge around 20 or 30 when California has so many people coming to the state for campuses and military bases. But by 2019, which was last year, you see it starting to transition to a pyramid, and more of us are reaching 60 and 70 and really looking similar to the number of young people. And then looking not too far in the future, look at those lines at 70, 80, 90, 100. More and more of us are living even having longer stages and different stages of aging. And again, those all raise different issues. What does my life look like at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, the second 50 years? Great questions and challenges for all of us as we think about aging. And as we're talking about data and counting, I hope this makes it clear to you that we all need to be counted. It is census time, if you haven't heard yet. 2020 census, every 10 years we get counted. And it really determines, this data will drive so much programming and planning and funding. So starting in mid-March, you should be getting a postcard in the mail from the census, and we urge you to take action. It's going to look different than it did in 2010. Please talk with the older adults in your life about the census, and actually everybody in your life, but particularly for this forum, older adults, and make sure people have what they need to get counted. And our friends at California Census 2020 have lots of resources in many languages to help make sure that all of us are counted. So let us know if you need more on that, but let's be counted so we can be sure we are all part of our state's future and funding for the years to come. So with that background, the master plan, let me quickly share the framework that is driving all this work. We do have a California for All vision here, and that absolutely includes across the lifespan, all ages. We are driven by values of choices and voices for all of us, including older Californians and people with disabilities. Equity, that both values our diverse communities and addresses disparities and discrimination. Dignity, inclusion and accessibility. Innovation, new things, as well as evidence-informed proven practices, and always, always, always strong partnerships. Our mission is to deliver a person-centered, data-driven 10-year California Master Plan for Aging by October 1st. That includes this state plan and a local blueprint. California depends on state and local partnerships, and we hope this local blueprint will build on what many communities, including San Diego, have already done and help us all move forward together. A data dashboard to help us be data-driven as we prioritize and move. And that best practice resources to share among different communities and states and even countries so we can learn from each other as we all move forward. We're focusing our work in 4 goal areas: services and supports. We will all live where we choose as we age and have the help we and our families need to do so. Livable communities and purpose, today's focus. We will live in and be engaged in communities that are age-friendly, dementia-friendly, and disability-friendly. Health and well-being, we'll live in communities and have access to services and care that optimize health and quality of life. And economic security and safety. We will have economic security and be safe from abuse, neglect, exploitation, and natural disasters and emergencies throughout our lives. Where are we in this timeline? We launched in June with an executive order. We began in August with our stakeholders and our cabinet and our Together We Engage public campaign. We spent the fall and winter really listening, particularly on long-term services and supports. And this month we'll be receiving our first recommendations from stakeholders on long-term services and supports. I commend that report to you. It's on the agency website, the latest draft, and the final will be coming to the governor by the end of the month. Next, we'll be getting recommendations on our other topics you just heard, including livable communities. So we're right on time here through Webinar Wednesday. And again, going to our stakeholder committee and cabinet work group. And it all comes together in October with the master plan as issued by the governor per the executive order. So with that, I'll begin the pivot to our topic, and then we'll hear a little bit from you before introducing our speakers. CDA has long had a connection to parks with our CalFresh Healthy Living program, formerly known as SNAP-Ed. We're thrilled that our local area agencies on aging coordinate activities that support a healthy lifestyle, which can include lots of exercise programs, fitness programs, balance, yoga, Tai Chi, walking, many programs that help living a healthy lifestyle, as well as eating healthy on a budget and maintaining a balanced diet. And this actually says eligible as CalFresh recipients, but it's even broader. It's CalFresh eligible, age 60 and older. And then the connections only begin to deepen when I'm out in the community. I've been so privileged to be able to go to many Master Plan for Aging community roundtables. And when I was in San Bernardino just recently, we heard about a wonderful program, Cycling Without Age, the right to wind in your hair, where volunteers sign up with bike riders with the elderly on either an ongoing or a one-time basis. There's chapters of this in several places in the state, San Francisco, Alameda, Marin, and San Jose in the north, San Diego in the south, and many LA chapters where bicycling maintains an activity across the lifespan. So with that inspiration from programs old and new, we want to take a second and see who's here with us. So to summarize, thank you for answering the polls. And to see who's here with us is Adam Willoughby from our CDA team to share that results.
Great, thank you so much, Kim, and thank you for everyone for responding to the polls as they were presented to you. The first question that we asked you, are you an interested member of the public or either employed or involved in the field of aging or parks and recreation? 63% of respondents indicated that they are employed or involved in fields of aging. 26% of respondents indicated that they're an interested member of the public, and 11% of folks indicated they're employed or involved in related fields. The second question that we asked you, what age group do you belong to? 29% of folks indicated that they are 75 plus. 24% of respondents indicated they are between 35 and 44. And then coming in with a tie, each at 12%, we have ages 45 to 54, 55 to 64, and 55 to 74. And then the third and final poll that we asked you, where do you live in California? Looks like 33% of folks indicated they're from Los Angeles. 28% of respondents indicated they're from the San Francisco Bay Area. And then 17% of folks indicated they are from the Sacramento region. Also 17 indicated they're from Southern California. So thank you so much for responding to those polls. And please be looking for additional opportunities as we continue this webinar.
And a reminder to those of you who are calling in, you can also look at your chat box and see resources that are being added. We shared the CDPH COVID-19 resources, and we just added the CalFresh Healthy Living resources. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our first speaker. We are delighted to have Pam Plimpton from the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. And I love the title of your presentation, Pam, Enhancing Engagement at Parks and Community Spaces in San Diego County. Pam, take it away.
Thank you so much, and good morning to everyone. I really appreciate this opportunity to be with you today and share some of our efforts to build more age-friendly communities within San Diego County, including, of course, enhanced engagement of older adults in parks and other community spaces throughout our region. I wanted to start by just sharing some brief background. As was mentioned, I work for Aging and Independent Services. We are part of the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency and are the designated area agency on aging for San Diego County. So we have many different services and programs to serve older adults and persons with disabilities in our very large and diverse county. We have about 3.3 million residents, approximately 425,000 of whom are over the age of 65, and of course many different races, ethnicities, and languages spoken. Next slide, please. And in our county, we have an overarching vision that's known as Live Well San Diego. This is a broad and collective effort of government, community partners, and individuals to build healthy, safe, and thriving communities in our region, and it has a very, very proactive focus. As part of this vision, our county leadership has made some critical decisions in the past several years that I think are very pertinent to our discussion today. First of all, our county has made a significant investment in intergenerational efforts to bring the different ages in our county together. For example, 4 intergenerational coordinator positions have been created to represent the different regions of our county, as well as our Child Welfare Services Department, to join forces with the intergenerational coordinator position that I currently hold that's within my agency. So we have a team of intergenerational coordinators working to address really critical issues in our communities using an intergenerational lens. Next slide, please. Secondly, we've embraced 2 important global initiatives I'm sure many of you are very familiar with, the Age-Friendly and the Dementia-Friendly Communities Initiative. We call the marriage of these 2 in our county Age Well San Diego. Next slide, please. So for Age Well, we have teams comprised of county staff and community partners who are working on goals within 5 specific domains. You see them on this slide. And many of these goals reflect those of the California Master Plan for Aging, particularly for the social participation team that I'm very involved with. Our goals link directly to the topic we're discussing today, engaging older adults in parks and other outdoor and community spaces. For example, the social participation team has a goal to facilitate the development of shared spaces for intergenerational activity, and parks obviously are a perfect site for this. I'll be sharing more examples of our work in this area in a few moments. And similarly, another social participation team goal is to implement recreational and educational programming that is safe, dementia-friendly, and diverse, especially to address the challenges of social isolation. The very kind of programming we're working to expand in outdoor spaces such as parks. Next slide, please. Thirdly, we've also adopted a larger scale aging roadmap, which is a comprehensive regional plan that will guide the development of services for older adults in our county. It focuses on 10 areas shown here on the slide, which includes the 5 Age Well domains, and together they encompass a complete vision for the San Diego region, from the personal in-home experience of older adults and their caregivers to the community-wide infrastructure of housing and transportation and parks and public spaces. Next slide, please. So in my role as intergenerational coordinator, I really have the opportunity to get a ground level view of some of these efforts, and this includes some really exciting collaborations with great partners such as parks and recreation departments, as well as libraries, senior centers, and YMCAs. And so I'd now like to shift gears and share some of the concrete examples of how we are working to engage older adults at sites like these. Next slide, please. First, I want to tell you about a great partnership our Health and Human Services Agency has with the Department of Parks and Recreation within the County of San Diego to support kinship families in our region, such as grandparents raising grandchildren. As many of you know, the number of these families across the country is growing. I read a statistic that the proportion of children being raised by grandparents in the United States has doubled since the 1970s. And our county has really made it a priority to provide support to these families so they can thrive, even in what are often very challenging and traumatic circumstances. And we've received feedback from these families that they want more opportunities to just have fun together. Grandparents just saying, I want to have fun with my grandkids. But money is commonly an issue. They are often on very tight budgets. So our Parks and Recreation partners, who are expert at helping people tap into the enormous research-proven benefits of the outdoors, actually came up with the idea of hosting a camp out just for kinship families, an event that we have lovingly dubbed Gramping. And with Gramping, we are able to give these families a complete camping experience together as a group with fellow kinship families. The camping fees are waived at a county park site. Sleeping bags and tents are provided for families who don't have them. All the food, all the activities are planned out, including nature hikes and s'mores around the campfire. And it's a chance to not only strengthen family bonds, but for these families to see they are not alone in their situation, and that hopefully they can build an informal network of peer support together. We have received overwhelmingly positive feedback from the participants. I believe some of the families maybe have never had the opportunity to go camping together before, and we hope obviously they will continue to enjoy the outdoors together as a family afterwards. One attendee noted it was great to spend quality time together without electronics. We had a disabled grandmother also say that there was no way she could have done an activity with her grandchildren like this on her own. And what's also really neat is that an increasing number of kinship families are now expressing interest to us in outdoor activities and requesting that such activities be offered. I know personally for me, it has been one of the highlights of my professional life to be able to help plan and participate in these events. Similarly, we know that grandparents raising their grandchildren often have higher rates of depression and health challenges as compared to their peers who are not raising grandchildren. So we've also collaborated to create a kinship caregiver pampering event, which we have called Grampering, also hosted at a county park site. And this is a chance for grandparents to engage in self-care activities like yoga and art therapy while their grandchildren enjoy kid-friendly activities. So both of these events, Gramping and Grampering, are now planned annually. Likewise, we've collaborated with other community partners to provide activities such as day hikes with kinship families. We've worked with yet another partner to provide free passes to attend museums in the city of San Diego's large Balboa Park, which some of you may know is kind of like our version of Central Park. We've also partnered with our county parks and recreation community centers to provide vouchers to kinship families, helping defray the costs of taking a class or participating in day camp at these sites. All of these efforts are centered around helping to heal trauma and build family bonds, especially through time in the outdoors. And I just want to note that these models, I really feel, can be followed, of course, for other elders, especially at-risk elders. I'm thinking of persons with disabilities, persons with dementia, and their caregivers. Most communities have green spaces, large or small, where with a little help, a little planning if needed, these individuals could enjoy the many benefits of being outdoors. Next slide, please. In addition, last year, our County Parks and Recreation Department approached my agency, Aging and Independent Services, seeking ideas about how they could make a new park they're designing more age-friendly and intergenerationally focused, which of course was music to our ears. So after consulting with each other and tapping into great resources like AARP's wonderful guide, Creating Parks and Public Spaces for People of All Ages, you're going to hear about that more later, I believe, from Jennifer and Nina, we came up with a list of suggestions for our friends at the Parks Department to consider. Examples include intentional activities and programming, things like yoga, art exhibits, health fairs. Also structures such as amphitheaters and cafe-style seating to support those kind of activities, and even permanent weatherproof structures that encourage more informal, organic intergenerational engagement, such as ping pong and checkers and chess tables. Also, of course, a prioritized attention to accessibility with the walking trails, with the seating areas. Just this past week, I saw an article about our county Parks and Recreation Department's commitment to enhance the accessibility of their park sites. And they've added features such as ADA compliant cabins at one of their campsites, elevated garden beds at a community garden at one of their sites. And these are things that are obviously wonderful to see. In addition, a focus on safety, especially through the eyes of an older adult, particularly someone who might have limited mobility. Is there good lighting and walkways with clear sight lines? Are there areas with plenty of shade, both naturally from trees, but also through structural design, such as gazebos and covered seating areas? And do the walking and biking routes near the park ensure safe access to it? For example, to get there, do you have to cross a busy street? And if so, does it have adequate traffic lights, stop signs, crosswalks? We really appreciated this chance to share our input and look forward to continued collaboration with our parks partners as they design and add features to their parks to enhance their inclusivity. Next slide, please. Another way our intergenerational team promotes connections across the ages is by providing technical support, not just to partners who work at park sites, but also those who work at other community spaces, such as libraries and senior centers and YMCAs. You know, libraries are trusted places where people of different generations often gather, but not always necessarily intentionally interacting together. So we're working to try to help change that. One of our county branch libraries, for example, has piloted a tech program, Teens and Elders Computer Help classes. In this program, students from a nearby high school taught older adults to become more digitally literate. And that can so much help older adults be more engaged in their community and less isolated. For example, if they learn how to now Skype with their loved ones. The same branch also hosted an intergenerational dance event where children and elders learn dances from different cultures together. And we've also helped support numerous intergenerational games events around our county at sites such as senior centers and a local YMCA. These are half-day events, super fun, in which older adults are paired with children, usually elementary age, for non-competitive physical activities and nutrition education, and they're mostly held outdoors. They teach all involved that you can be healthy at any age and break down stereotypes and build empathy between the participants. Next slide, please. Lastly, I just wanted to mention our broader efforts to help older adults and others know about the many ways they can engage in our community and reduce their social isolation. We have an intergenerational programs directory that showcases many great local opportunities for youth and older adults to interact with each other. This can be found along with other helpful information on the intergenerational pages of our Live Well San Diego website. And we've created 2 ways to engage handouts. These identify some of the many diverse ways elders can participate in community life in our county, everything from volunteering to travel to being in the outdoors to lifelong learning. And one of the handouts is particularly focused on ways in which older adults who are more homebound due to physical or cognitive limitations can stay involved, because we know that it can be a particular challenge for this population. Next slide, please. In closing, I would just like to sum up our efforts here in San Diego County in one sentence. It's really all about building livable communities for all ages across the lifespan. And I certainly realize that many of you listening likely do not have the good fortune in your community to have a team of intergenerational coordinators helping to propel this work forward as you strive to engage older adults. But my advice to you is to start wherever you are and build from there. One final quick example. One of our Parks and Recreation community centers has both a children's daycare and programming for older adults at their site. And sometimes they just have the older adults join the children for lunch or bring a show and tell item to share with the kids. I think about time they could also spend, in the outdoors, taking short walks together. Intergenerational efforts like these and any efforts to engage older adults can be large or small scale, involving obviously many people or few. In the end, it's really about forging relationships and building connections. And with that, I will end and just say again, thank you so much for listening and for your interest.
Thank you. That was absolutely inspiring to all of us. And I really appreciate your direction to start from where you are. And in fact, we have several commenters who are doing just that. Deb shares that her church has monthly activities for intergenerational groups. Sybil suggests intergenerational art classes where young and old together can begin their artistic journey led by qualified art instructors. And Elna says Mountain View here in the Bay Area offers intergenerational trips to a local farm that include helping with animals, planting and harvesting vegetables, and other farm-based activities. So those are all great examples involving community resources and getting started with where you are, and hopefully that vision that we got from San Diego of intergenerational teams. I cannot wait to go gramping. That is so exciting.
Thank you, and thanks for all those great examples out there, wonderful examples. And gardening, of course, particularly is a great outdoor activity that lends itself to the different generations working together.
Makes great sense. Well, we're going to go from San Diego. We're going to come up here to Sacramento with our partner at the California Department of Parks and Recreation. We're going to hear from Liz McGurk, the Chief Deputy Director on State Parks' role as a state partner in aging and parks and outdoor spaces. Liz, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to share with you some of the ways that California State Parks manages parks and open spaces in California in order to provide recreational opportunities to people of all ages and with all physical abilities so that we can have access to these beautiful spaces in California and enjoy the cultural, historic, and natural resources found in state parks. As many of you know, the California Department of Parks and Recreation, or California State Parks, we operate over around 280 park units, over 340 miles of coastline, 970 miles of lake and river frontage, over 15,000 campsites, and 4,500 miles of trails throughout California. And we provide recreational, educational, and inspirational opportunities for more than 75 million visitors annually. And you can go to the first slide. Sorry about that. So state parks, so we do this, we provide recreational opportunities throughout the state and through every region of California. And we focus a lot, our access programs through some of our past programs. And we actually have a couple of specific past programs for senior members of the communities. We offer a Golden Bear Pass, which is a income eligible pass for seniors who meet certain income eligibility. We have a pass that gets you into most parks in the state park system, and it's a $5 annual fee. And then we also have a senior specific pass that is not income restricted, and it's anybody over 62 years of age is eligible to receive. It's called our limited use Golden Bear Pass, which is valid January through December during our non-peak season, and it can be renewed every year for a low $20 fee. So we're excited that we have those pass programs specifically for members of our senior communities. And next slide, please. Another program that we have that's vital to our state park system is our volunteer program. So the first volunteers in the California State Park system served over 100 years ago, and they work to preserve our most treasured places. They teach the public about the value of the recreational spaces and these natural resources in California. And today, our volunteer program has grown to more than 44,000 volunteers who donate over 1 million hours of service, which calculates to a financial benefit of roughly $33 million. We know, while we don't track our volunteers by age specifically, we do know anecdotally that a majority of our volunteers are seniors, and they work as interpretive nurses,
Liz, this is
Uh-huh.
Liz. Hey, Liz,
Yes.
this is Kim. I'm going to pause you for a second. Your audio has gotten really tough to hear.
Okay.
That's better all of a sudden.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it again. But that whatever you're doing now, keep doing it. Thanks.
Okay, I just got a little closer here. So I'll start with our volunteer numbers. So we have over 44,000 volunteers. And while we don't track them by age, we know anecdotally that a majority of our volunteers are seniors. They donate over 1 million hours annually to the state park system, which has an estimated value of roughly $33.9 million to the state. So we have, most of our volunteers work as interpretive docents, camp hosts, and visitor contacts at kiosks and visitor centers. They help with maintenance of the parks, but they really are that public-facing, interacting with children and school groups, and telling the stories of our state park interpretive programs. We have over 89 cooperating associations that work with our parks throughout the state. And just those 89 associations have over 34,000 board members who are dedicated to enhancing educational and interpretive programs in our state parks. And often the members of these associations and their boards are senior volunteers who are providing these programs to support the state park system out of the kindness of their heart. These docents educate and steward children programs. They create interest to state parks through geology, living history, botany, archaeology, marine life, and forest ecology. So we are truly dependent on our volunteer program, and we're so excited that we have so many volunteers willing to come and help the state park system programs to the public. The next slide, please. So one of the core values at state parks is diversity and accessibility. And we have adopted a Parks for All slogan through the governor's budget this year with California for All. We're also, we have a Parks for All message, and that includes accessibility. That includes, making sure that folks of all physical abilities are able to access our parks and able to enjoy them. Because as we know, California's state parks can be quite different from our local and regional facilities. State parks are often created around, sometimes remote natural or cultural resources that can be in, not located in cities or urban areas. We have rustic campgrounds, winding trails, isolated beaches, and different areas of the state that we want to make sure that are accessible for people of all mobility ranges. So we are constantly working on accessibility improvements throughout the state. We have over 500 accessible campsites, over 70 plus accessible picnic areas, accessible trails, and thousands of amenities, restrooms, parking, and pathways designated as accessible. And it's something that we are constantly working on. And another thing is working on making sure we have the information out to the public so that they know which places they can go and what features there are accessible. So we do have a web page, parks.ca.gov, and we've created a page just for accessible features in state parks, where you can look up the type of recreational opportunity you're looking for. You can look it up by park name or geographic region to see what are the accessible features in the area that you are wanting to go. The next slide, please. So another way that Parks engages in creating livable communities and spaces is we have our Office of Grants and Local Services, which is the statewide grant agency for many of our local and regional grant programs in the state for parks and open space. Most significantly, we had the recent passage of Proposition 68, California Drought, Water, Parks, Climate, Coastal Protection, and Outdoor Access for All Act. And in that program, it included roughly over $700 million to build parks in underserved communities to create a healthier California for all. This program will see projects that will change the landscapes of neighborhoods because they're going to be envisioned by each unique community. So one of the features of Prop 68 programming and the way that we developed the grant guidelines this year was that we required a community-based planning model that would help steer projects based on ideas from all residents, including youth and seniors. We wanted to really ensure that as this money went out to communities and new parks and open spaces were created, that they were based on a community planning model and the needs of the members in the community that would be using the space. So we just recently announced the first round of Prop 68 funding to go out. We had a lot of applications. We had over 478 applications received for funding for a total of $2.3 billion requested. So we know that there is a large need out there. This round, there was roughly $255 million available for grants. I was just going to highlight a couple of the projects that were selected and awarded this grant cycle. For example, the County of Los Angeles had a 95th and Normandy Pocket Park project, which would use a little over $1 million to construct a park that includes a therapeutic garden for physical and mental wellness. It includes public art and space for mobile recreation programs in order to help promote healthy lifestyles. In the city of Calexico, they have a Heber Park expansion project that's going to construct a new multi-purpose gym, which will provide multi-generational recreational opportunities, walking trails and athletic tracks for physical fitness, picnic areas, and seating to address wellness needs in the community. And lastly, I'll just highlight the creation of a new Ashland Common Park in Alameda County between Hayward and San Leandro, which is going to construct a multi-generational gathering plaza with picnic tables, open space, outdoor fitness areas, walking paths, and an amphitheater for social and cultural events to promote both active and passive recreational opportunities. So those are just a few of the examples of how through our grant program at state parks, we're able to help assist local and regional communities in the creation of healthy spaces and active and passive recreational opportunities. So we do look forward to the next rounds of Prop 68 funding going out. There's about a remaining $400 million for future rounds of grants. So in closing, I think I just sum it up by saying, California State Parks works to provide recreational opportunities not only in our state parks and state-owned spaces, but also through our local and regional grant programs so that we can have an impact in all of the regional and open space in California and work together with our local communities to create the spaces that communities need for active recreation, for wellness and livable communities. And that kind of sums up my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate that comprehensive look at all the different ways from volunteerism to Parks for All to local park funding that the state parks is a partner in this work. And I appreciate your perseverance through technical difficulties. You ended up coming through loud and clear. Thank you so much. We did have lots of comments on different aspects of that. Arthur resonated with the volunteer program, mentioning in San Francisco, we have friends of various parks where all generations can gather together to help maintain our neighborhood parks. It helps the park. It also makes people feel good to connect with their neighbors doing that. We could publicize that more widely and attract more people who don't know about it. Suggestions to help make that happen would be welcome. Lorinda tagged on to another important point, that it's not just the physical infrastructure, of course, it's also the health promotion classes for older people and their support system to make sure people are able to use the parks in a way that optimizes their health and avoids risk like falls that could actually seriously impact their aging. So encouraging those health promotion activities in every single provider network so that all of us are using these parks resources. And then Bill reminds us to look not just in state for great examples, but to look around the globe, and is sharing an article in the chat to all of us from the BBC about parks designed with older persons in mind in Japan. And the key point the article Bill shares is the parks need to be psychologically accessible. Very interesting, Bill. Thank you so much for that. Keep it coming. Now we're going to turn it over to the dynamic duo from AARP California. Nina Weiler-Harwell is the Associate State Director for Community, over 20 years experience in aging advocacy with AARP on almost every issue at almost every level. And Jennifer Verdugo is also an Associate State Director here in California, and she's the lead on livable communities, on the issues of parks and open spaces, and part of the age-friendly team, such a key partner to so many California communities and increasingly the state as we look at becoming an age-friendly state due to recent legislation. With that, I will turn it over to Jennifer and Nina.
So, good morning, everybody. So delighted to be here today and already hearing so much inspiration from our state and local partner on some of the best practices that we could certainly learn from in terms of parks, open spaces, and engagement. Before I pass the baton to Jennifer, I just wanted to share with the folks, AARP is a national membership organization. We are nonpartisan, and we work to help Americans and Californians 50 plus live their best lives. In California, we have 3.3 million members. Among our many priorities, in fact, our livable communities are age-friendly communities, which you've already heard about today and on other webinars. So with that, I will pass things over to Jennifer Verdugo, who again is our statewide lead on livable communities. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Nina. And if you can go ahead and go on to the next slide. So livable communities, again, is one of AARP's top priorities. And these are places where people of all ages and abilities can live healthy, independent lives. A livable community supports successful aging, not only by promoting physical independence, but also by enhancing the quality of life and active social engagements for residents with one another. And so here at AARP, in response to the rapid growth and the changes that we're seeing in our aging population, AARP became the North American affiliate to the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly states and communities. AARP's network seeks to help communities, cities, counties, and states better prepare to serve their older adult population. Currently, there are over 440 communities actively enrolled in AARP's age-friendly network, including 44 communities here in California. And very grateful to have Pam from San Diego County, one of our age-friendly members, also on this webinar, who obviously shared some of their amazing work. Next slide, please. Parks and open spaces are important for various reasons, and this is a short list, so this doesn't cover everything, but I want to just emphasize what we know is that parks improve physical and mental health. They help to enhance community connections, and they also add a tremendous economic value. They help increase property values and promote tourism. They help provide stormwater retention and air pollution removal and more. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, older adults are one of the most underserved populations in terms of park access. In a 2014 survey, older adults ages 60 plus accounted for 20% of the total population, but they only represented 4% of total park users. This could be due to the fact that parks have not traditionally been built to serve a broader demographic. We believe that parks need to have more features, amenities, and activities that support both passive and active recreation by older adults, that welcome grandparents bringing their grandchildren, while also giving them something to do at the park. Parks should also demonstrate universal design features and encourage intergenerational use. Next slide. In 2018, AARP California conducted a survey of our members across the state because we felt it was important to better understand how our how our members valued parks, excuse me. We heard from several of our members across the state. 91% said that parks add value to their communities. 65% said that they use parks almost daily. And 61% said that they'd be willing to pay slightly more in taxes to help improve their local parks. We also heard that parks are not adequately serving all. 60% said, 60% of those surveyed said that they had safety concerns. 54% said that they didn't feel welcome at parks. And 33% said that their local park lacked appealing amenities. Next slide. We also heard that despite how much parks are valued, our members have difficulty accessing parks. 62% said that they'd like to go to a park more often, but have difficulty getting there. 55% said that they typically get to a park by car, and that on average it would take about 10 to 20 minutes by car. 69% said that it would take over 10 minutes to walk to their park. This is really important to note because parks advocates have suggested that parks should be within a 10-minute walk from everyone. And while this doesn't take into consideration an average walking speed, it does support what we already know in California, that not all communities are created equally and that there are many that don't have adequate parks or recreational opportunities. These are also concerns that are preventing older adults, particularly those that do have a nearby park, from going to and enjoying it. Next slide. At AARP, we know how important parks are to older adults and to all members of a community, and that's why we partnered with 880 Cities and the Trust for Public Land, both widely recognized and respected organizations on this issue, to develop our Creating Parks and Public Spaces for People of All Ages guide. This guide provides helpful information to parks and recreational professionals, community members, and stakeholders on how they can use an age-friendly lens when creating new parks and improving existing parks. This guide is available for free to download online at the link and you can also request a printed copy online as well. Next slide. There are 3 key principles in this guide that I want to discuss today. Those are improving existing parks, connecting people to parks, and creating new parks. First, to improve existing parks, we recommend that parks planners think about providing activities, designing for all, and engaging and energizing others. Have you ever been to a beautiful park only to find that there isn't much to do in it? We've heard that quite a bit. And so we recommended that parks planners and communities think about providing and designing a wide range of programs, events, and activities, because these things are critical to creating parks that are dynamic, inclusive, and welcoming to people of all ages and interests. Programs and activities should, as much as possible, be for everyone, thinking not just about all ages, but also how to be responsive to a community's diversity and cultural needs and interests. Activities should also be available year-round and at various times of day, which helps to maximize a park's value. To design for all, we recommend creating comfortable places, like well-placed and quality seating, which is especially important for older adults and encourages people to use parks more often and to stay for longer periods of time. We also recommend providing amenities and natural design features like water fountains, clean and safe restrooms, informative signage, and community gardens, just to name a few. Walking paths are also consistently rated by older adults as the most desired feature to have in parks. And of course, parks should support physical activities for people of all ages, abilities, and interests. Now, to better connect people to parks, we recommend putting pedestrians first and removing barriers. This may seem straightforward, but oftentimes parks are completely gated off or have overgrown trees or bushes that can deter people from wanting to go in and to use the park. Finally, we also recommend thinking creatively when creating new parks. When there isn't enough funding or enough green space or open space, there are still opportunities to find places and open spaces that can be used as parks or parklets. This guide also provides a number of additional tools and resources to help communities audit their park, to better understand who's using it, how they're using it, and whether it's truly serving the community and people of all ages. Next slide. So I wanted to share some best practices within California. We've already heard several from both Pam and Liz, but I think these will help to get folks thinking about creative, out-of-the-box ways that communities are using an age-friendly lens. Ciclovia in Los Angeles catalyzes vibrant public spaces, active transportation, and good health through car-free streets. This movement is inspired by Bogota, Colombia's weekly Ciclovia. And Ciclovia temporarily closes streets to car traffic and opens them to Angelinos to use as a public park. This event is free for all, and Ciclovia connects communities to each other across an expansive city, creating a safe place to bike, walk, skate, roll, and even dance throughout Los Angeles County. Golden Age Park is the Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust's recently created intergenerational park, which was created in a densely populated, multicultural, park-poor community in Los Angeles. And finally, AARP Footlots is something new that AARP has sponsored throughout the country. These are park-placed exercise equipment for people of all ages to use. Next slide. Placemaking is another term that we've often heard in terms of parks and public spaces in relation to livability. And placemaking inspires people to collectively reimagine and reinvent public spaces at the heart of every community. These can be temporary projects that inspire change and can improve communities for all ages. Some examples of placemaking can include painted bike lanes and painted crosswalks, which can help promote and emphasize bike and pedestrian safety. Pop-up parklets are another example, which can be temporary demonstrations to help engage residents and businesses on potential long-term livability improvements. And AARP also developed a pop-up placemaking toolkit, which is also available online for free to download. Next slide. Lastly, I wanted to share 2 video links that you can watch on your own time. One is a video from the founder of 880 Cities, who we collaborated with on the Parks Guide. And the other video talks about the Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust Intergenerational Park, which I mentioned previously. We hope both videos will help to inspire change and make parks and open spaces more friendly for people of all ages. And now I will turn it back over to Nina, who will go over some recommendations for us.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. I'm really privileged here at AARP and as a member of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee to be able to work with colleagues like Jennifer that bring such rich experience and knowledge to the table. And I can then share it with everybody on the webinar. So we just want to hold up some recommendations that could come out of Jennifer's presentation and some suggestions. Some among these would be always that state, county, and local parks really should use an age-friendly lens in developing local parks. And we've already provided an overview of some of the tools that one could use. Speaking of Prop 68, which we've already discussed before, this is really a great practice, and we encourage the creation of additional state-level grants, especially those that reward projects that are age-friendly. County and cities should consider the creation of fit lots that meet the needs of park users of all ages. And just to talk a bit about what a fit lot is, it's actually an outdoor fitness park that makes the benefits of outdoor exercise training free and accessible to the public. It includes outdoor fitness stations that are designed to use one's own body weight as resistance, making each piece of equipment age, gender, and ability based. Our fourth potential recommendation is when we are updating local parks plans or local parks, that we ensure there's older adult participation and input. So going beyond having a lens, making sure that on advisory committees or task forces, there are older adults that are part of the discussion. Finally, we encourage the development of unconventional parks and open spaces, which Jennifer has already hit upon, but especially in areas where there is inadequate park space. Next slide. So just briefly, I've had the benefit of being able to review some public comments that came in before today. And I really wanted to just hold up, as a member actually of two of the subcommittees working on the master plan, I can assure you the public comments and recommendations are taken very seriously by CDA staff, Stakeholder Advisory Committee. And so I want to do my best to quickly go over, summarize some public comments that came in today, that came in before today. And I know many of these comments reflect what we're hearing today as well. Safety and security is paramount. So we've already seen several public comments about the need to repair sidewalks and take steps to make our streets safer for pedestrians and wheelchair and scooter users, along with safe parks and recreational areas. So it's really a question of physical safety, whether it's use of the street or protecting the area from potential hazards. Certainly there are comments asking for more parks, improved walkability, both in urban and suburban areas. But there were some comments about ensuring that new amenities such as bike lanes be built in a way that we balance safety and walkability. So we have to be inclusive of all Californians' needs. Finally, we saw a number of comments about the importance of preparing and updating senior centers and really making them bigger, better staffed, and having longer hours and certainly a richer array of recreational activities within the centers. And finally, one more comment, which really goes to the original presentation. We received comments to ensure that more recreational activities are free or low cost for seniors, such as reduced price or free fishing licenses for seniors, and of course, even further reduced camping ground fees. So I appreciate the time I've had with you today, and I'm happy now to pass this back to Director Kim McCoy-Wade.
Thank you to Nina and Jennifer for that great continued 360 at all the different ways that communities are engaging with parks and other outdoor spaces to build age-friendly communities. Once again, lots of great and creative and inspiring comments. The first set were really about the need and opportunity for partnerships. We hear from Arthur about arts partnerships. So for example, outdoor nighttime film programs, or what about the amphitheaters and how those can be used for educational and cultural events? Could that be subsidized, promoted, so they're not so expensive to rent? But arts partnerships. And Jack echoes that arts partnerships are very popular in Carlsbad, San Diego as well. Other folks talk about farmers markets. Farmers markets can be a great way. And Jack says, don't forget libraries. Libraries sometimes aren't fully integrated with parks and can be when you use this broader engagement frame like San Diego did. A second set of questions and comments came in around straight up operational issues. The restrooms have to be accessible and appealing and open. Shade is very important in many of our communities as the temperature rises. Safety and how you work with police and nonprofits in a friendly way to ensure there is safety, security, companions. So any of those concerns can be addressed. And hours, opening days and nights, all of those things. So some set of operational issues to be clear that parks are welcoming and friendly. And then I want to pause and really lift up a third set of issues that I'll use my words, on behalf of Bill to say ageism. There's still too much programming, which he calls the same old, and the example he gives is bingo. There are still people who believe bingo is the best activity for older adults. Programming is not truly intergenerational, gender inclusive, really needs to be welcoming of all of us. And Bill has shared with folks, and we're pushing it out to you, the age-friendly pride guide has some examples about age-friendly communities from our partners at Sage USA. So again, ageism is something that's come up, I would venture to say, in every single one of our webinars, and we are looking at doing a special presentation just on the topic of ageism as an equity and civil rights issue in May. So stay tuned for that. But of course, it's come up here too, that ageism can get in the way, and other blinders around gender and race can get in the way of truly inclusive and engaging park content. I'd like to open it up to our panelists and see if they have any other additional comments that they would like to make, perhaps in response to what their fellow panelists said. Okay. Pam, did you
This is Pam.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Pam from San Diego. One of the things that struck me that was mentioned too in regards to safety, because that obviously is a huge concern that was mentioned, I think, by fellow panelists and also some of the listeners. And I don't think there's any easy answers there. Certainly, as we talked about, I think in the design of the park, you can address those issues in the keeping the park up and the restrooms and all of that. But it's also, or as I think someone suggested, one of the listeners, having extra security at the park. But I think another thing we increasingly need to consider is group trips to parks, because I think a lot of older adults would feel safer going in a group, plus they then get the enhanced social engagement. And to think about ways to get senior centers and assisted living facilities and the like to think outside the box about what their programming is and to provide trips to outdoor spaces. And I think that would help in many regards.
And it's Nina, if I can add another point as well. When we're thinking about public park design, ARP sees this as an issue that parks should be designed for all ages and abilities. So again, balance. We don't want to assume that all older Californians, or especially seniors, are mobility impaired. But we want to we do, and I did actually see this in the public comments we got before today. There's going to be, again, a spectrum of aging. So some are perfectly fine walking a half a mile from the bus stop, but some are not. And so how do we build park space so that it's close to parking, close to transportation, and very close? Again, so that we can have parks that are really available for all abilities and all generations.
Thank you, Pam and Nina. Your comments are being echoed and amplified by the public comments. The need to really make sure that sometimes adult recreation and park programming for seniors is modeled upon those for young children. And it's important to recognize perhaps the similarities maybe in padding, but there are differences so that there aren't infantilizing or boring adult programs. And also, again, this 880 frame appreciated, so it's not children's versus senior. That we're looking at intergenerational and win-win. And then security does come up as well. The issue, and one of the issues is, it's a very complicated and tragic one, but increasingly with people without homes coming to our state and local parks for shelter and for encampment. And the need to obviously provide housing for folks, but also the impacts that may have on the parks and people's perception of the park and experience of the park. So lots of interactions with previous webinars on homelessness and the need for compassionate and significant housing solutions as well. I guess I'll give, I loved Pam's last word earlier about start with where you are. And I also want to go up to Nina your last word, if I will, that Lorinda also appreciated about, considering everybody's needs. An example she gives is about, the bump pads that are helpful for people who have vision impairment to track the changing in curves and edges. However, that could also inadvertently create a trip hazard. And as more of us age and our aging looks different across our ages and across our functional abilities, how do we make sure we are not being driven by stereotypes or outdated information and really building, as Liz said so well, parks for all. With that, I think I will wrap us up. Particularly, I want to bridge us very much to next week's conversation about civic and social engagement, which will really continue this conversation with our state partner at Cal Volunteers and local groups like Oasis in San Diego. Again, San Diego with the leadership on engagement. And Jenny Chin Hansen, our SAC member who has held so many esteemed chairs in her career in aging, really looking at similar themes around intergenerational volunteerism, technology, all the ways that we continue to be engaged as we age. Geriatric medicine, retirement security, and coordinating health and long-term services and supports on the horizon for April. We welcome you to continue to join and speak up, use your voice to make sure we get this master plan right. And thank you so much for all you were doing to do just that through webinars, comments, community roundtables, committees. We are so excited to be in partnership with you on this master plan for aging. Thank you all.